Hello, hello. All right, let's make some painting today. Some paintings, I should say. So I've got some smaller pieces of paper. So these are 3 inches wide by 4 inches. This is 140 pound uh, cold press watercolor paper. We're gonna paint some watercolors today. So I'm not going to mask around the edge of my piece of paper like I frequently like to do. So you can see this one has got this masked all the way around the edge because I like to have that border sometimes. But I'm not going to do that today. So what I've done is I put this tape on the back, and this keeps my paper from moving when you start painting with the watercolors. The cool water on the paper will start to cause the paper to expand and contract, and that will kind of warp your paper. So this helps a little bit with that. It also kind of helps to keep everything kind of where you want it to be. So I'm going to use 2 brushes today. I'm going to use this medium size. This would be, I think, a number 8 round. And then I'm going to use this fine line brush here. I'm using my travel watercolor set because many of you also have this travel watercolor set you got at the beginning of the school year. So yeah, we're going to create some kind of abstract, I'm going to call them abstract insect portraits. Um, so when I say abstract, I don't want to make these look exactly like any particular bug. I want it to stay really kind of loose and abstract. So that's kind of my thinking. I'm going to start with this guy, and I'm going to paint let's make some sort of a butterfly, I think. So I'm gonna start with just clean water, and I'm just gonna kind of create the center, what might be the body of the butterfly. I'm going over it a couple of times because I want this portion of the paper to be nicely wet. And now I'm going to use, got a kind of a dark blue here. Normally I would mix my colors, but for our purposes today, I want real intense pigments that I'm going to bring. And so I've got this dark blue. I'm just going to kind of, let's just, like I said, we're going to be abstract. So I'm going to go ahead and be abstract. So I'm just kind of creating some stripes there. And that's kind of fun, interesting. I might, because I've got some other colors here, I'm going to bring a little bit of purple onto this. And what I really like is the way it's kind of bleeding and fading. So I'm just going to touch this other color on there and let it kind of do the same thing. So it's just kind of an interesting effect. Going to get a little bit more of that and continue it up. And you can see, depending on how hard I press the brush, the more pigment will kind of flow out of that. But yep, kind of like that. It's kind of interesting. Let's bounce over here because this is all really wet right now. I want to let that start to dry up just a little bit. So I think I'm going to do another butterfly. Maybe I'll just do a series of butterflies today. So this guy, I'm going to change the body shape just a little bit. So I'm going to create, again, I'm kind of working on that, what I might call an abdomen, midsection of this creature, and I'm going to make another kind of round shape up here. And it's going to have this guy use some of these more, I like this intense red. So let's see what happens when I do this. That's interesting. And maybe I'll do that kind of again. So I'm just kind of playing with filling in this space. I'm going to bring in some of this. I've got kind of an orange over here. In fact, I would like for that to be a little more orange, so I'm going to add some yellow to it. Just touching the edge of it so that it won't get so much of that red. And I'm just going to kind of stay inside this shape. And now I'm going to go just for that, more of that straight yellow. I like the way this is kind of fading up. I'm just making this up as I go, I promise you. Let's see. swiping it the other direction there. It's kind of fun. And I'm going to go even lighter yellow just above that. So I'm going to get just a little bit of that yellow that I just used. And I think I'm going to continue to use this like swiping technique that I'm making up here. And now I'm going to go for the lighter yellow. Just kind of work on that top section. So just going to bring that down in there. Yep. Kind of cool. Cool. All right, got some different things going on here. So I'm going to make now, and I want to try, but again, because this is abstract, it doesn't have to be. I'm going to create some abstract wing spaces over here. And here's what's important to know. If it touches this, most likely pigment's going to bleed into that color. So I have to make a decision. I think I'm just going to separate it. And I might even, I don't have to, but I might even use a larger brush. I just want to make sure this stays nice and wet. So I'm just kind of painting a rounded wing shape here. I'm going to have it come down kind of out in the corner. And remember, because this is abstract, it does not have to be, we're not going to have any insect scientists come and say, oh, that technically is not correct. So don't worry too much about that. My goal now over here is to try and make this shape that I'm making symmetrical. So I want to try to mirror image that first one that I made. And I'm just, as I'm doing this, I'm just kind of looking and seeing, I'm looking to see how wet my paper is. So I want to see water pooled up on this paper. And if it's not, then I want to add more water to it. So it looks like it's reasonably pooled up. And now I'm just going to come and use some of these. So I like the blues that I've got. So I'm going to maybe fade this into some reds. And I'm going to, let's just see what happens when I do this. So I'm going to get this kind of intense red over here. And I'm just going to touch it into this space and see. That's fun. And I want it to be a little more intense. So I'm just going to go over what I just did. Just kind of waking that paint up a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. I like that intensity. So I'm gonna, because I think I am gonna try to make these symmetrical. I just touched those three sides there. I'm just gonna kind of do the same thing over here. And if it doesn't bleed the same way, then I'm gonna be okay with that. So I like that. I'm gonna come for this because I want this to fade, I think. So I'm gonna go from this darker red to a slightly lighter red. And let's see what happens. Off of each, so in my mind I'm thinking off of each one of these I'm going to do kind of the same thing. So I'm just going to touch and kind of direct. So 1, 2, 3 off of each one of these guys. Maybe just 2 up top there. Touch my paint again and I'll do that again. 1, 2, 3. Just kind of like in, what's interesting about that, that's funny. I was just looking and thinking about it and I feel like it looks kind of like lungs, which was not my intention, but I think it's visually interesting. All right, gonna go for, I've got this orange mixed up. I just used that red. I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow to this orange. And I'm gonna just kind of do some more work here. So I'm gonna bring in, kind of like that. I'll do that again on the other side. Now what's interesting is right here, that paper had dried up, so you can see it doesn't bleed and fade out the way the other one did. But I kind of like the way it looks, so I'm gonna leave it alone. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and paint some wings up top, and this guy will probably be finished, I would say. All right, so getting some kind of clean water here, and I'm just gonna paint a wing shape. So I'm getting kind of close to the body there. I'm going to extend this. So for this wing shape, you can see I've kind of made maybe like a leaf shape, maybe. That's kind of interesting. Yep, and I want to try to do the same thing on the other side, so I'm going to bring this water. So I want to add a little more water because this side dried on me last time. And I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use these same colors, so kind of the same color scheme. So I'm going to go for that intense dark red to start. That's cool. Do the same thing on the other side. All right, to that I'm going to go for the next version of red there. So I've kind of made up a set of rules here that I'm just going to kind of follow for this one as well. And then I'm going to go back again for that orange. So my paper has curled up just a little bit, which is causing pools of water to be kind of on the outside edge there. Cool. Looks kind of like a tie-dye, which was not the intention, but that's all right. All right, let's move over to the other guy. On this one, I'm going to change it up just a little bit. So instead of using all of these different colors in this way, I'm going to use just blues, I think, for the wings. It's just kind of a choice I'm making beforehand. So I'm going to paint wing shape here. I'm looking again to see kind of how wet this paper is and making sure that it's wet evenly. Going to do the same thing on the other side. Just trying to make it kind of match up. And I see that it does. This little wing segment that I did there, I need more. I needed more water there. So now I've got that. I'm going to use this much lighter blue. And I'm just going to switch up a little bit, maybe, what I'm doing. That's cool. Same thing on the other side. I'm going to go to a slightly darker blue. I want to make sure I've got nice intense pigment there. And I'm just going to touch there along the edge, kind of like that. And now I'm just going to go to the next darker blue. And I think this time I'm going to, let's try this. So you can see it. I'm going to leave that space just because I think that's, again, just kind of visually interesting. All right. Let's make the top wings. So I'm going to go ahead and use clean water, create that wing shape. Kind of just a nice leaf shape you can see there. I'm going to try to make it symmetrical over there on the other side. Go back to that first blue that I've got. Go to my next blue. You can see, so it's what's one of the things that I think is interesting about this sort of thing is even though I want to try to be abstract, I'm still kind of, and a lot of people think abstract is you just do whatever. You don't, try not to think too much. I'm still kind of making up some rules in here that I'm following um, just for some kind of interesting pieces. So I'm going to use that same technique, paint around the outside edge, leave it empty. Same thing here on the other side. Cool. Maybe cool. Maybe you don't think it's cool. That's okay. Everybody thinks differently, feels differently about art. Point is, we played with watercolors. We used kind of a different technique, a technique that people don't often use, which is that wet on wet. And hopefully, you had fun. So I had fun. I kind of like these guys. Not sure what I'll do with them, but there you go. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again soon.